And good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land. We are a part of the Fanatical Elves Network, a subsidiary of the Fans First Sports Network. Ethan Greenberg here, along with my co-host Mike Rasinski. Joining us tonight, Taven McCulley, Nate Bope of Prospects of the Land, Mike from the UK, joining us from across the pond. Good evening, sir. A pip and cheerio, as it were. Guys, how are you doing? Taven, what's happening, buddy?
Doing good, man. Very few things that get me excited as for when I'm on the show. So it should be a good one. I've been doing a lot of high school sports coverage, but getting ready for Guardian season. So it should be fun.
Real nice. Nate, how are you, sir? Welcome to the show. First time to our show.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, guys. Taven and Nate, Prospects of the Land. And, just so everybody knows where to find you, they can find you on X, Prospects of the Land, at Prospects OTL. When are you guys normally on, Nate?
So right now we're kind of doing an every other week sort of thing. If you don't know what our show's about, we go through the minor league system of your Guardians affiliates. We are looking at the next up-and-coming great Guardians players because, especially with this organization, we all know they get built off of prospects. So, hey, you can hear us talk about Lynchburg, Lake County, Akron, Columbus, all the minor league teams. And we got a lot of fun with that, showing the minor league guys some love because they deserve it. They work hard.
Yeah, definitely. We love that. And I've got a on my list, to ask you guys some questions about what your thoughts are, the prospects. Mike, you guys have some new. Nate, Taven, you got some a new follower here. Mike,
appreciate you, Mike.
Let's go. That's what we like to see. Just keep that going up and up.
Exactly. So, Mr. Mike, how are you, sir? Good evening.
Doing good. So we got spring training. The Cavs on a 10-game win streak, and the Browns haven't traded Miles yet. So it's a good week.
The only positive is the Browns aren't playing right now. So
yeah, so that's a positive. So it is a good week, and we got two experts talking about Guardians prospects. Which of all the teams, I think the Guardians are the team that you should follow the prospects the most of, just because you're right. That's how they build their team, and they're the most. We're going to see a bunch of them up in the big leagues this year. So I think that's fantastic. And we get to see a lot of them now in spring training.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Guardians, like we said, it's going to be a hot topic. And also, folks, if you want to follow all of Taven and Nate, Prospects of the Land, I showed you their Twitter handle here for their show. But you can also follow the company that you work for is Believe Land Media. And you do your coverage through this web address here, believelandmediallc.com. And also their Twitter handle is at believelandmedia there on Twitter. So, all right, folks, let's get down to it here.
I have a confession first. I told you I would save it until we went on air. I'm using the phone today because we actually, where I am, are kind of in like a winter storm sort of thing right now.
What?
Yeah. Oh, dude, the wind is howling outside. It is unbelievable right now. So we basically had a winter storm come in from the west and a rain/wind storm come up from the southeast, and they smashed together where I go to college. And it's created this windy, blizzardy like condition outside, and so Wi-Fi is like gone. So
are you in Minnesota? Where are you?
Nebraska, northeast Nebraska.
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
That is crazy, sir. So what I imagine is the Simpsons episode where Homer is driving a rental car, and it's like I think it's supposed to be like a Cadillac, and he's like, check it out, dual climate, and he's like turning on the heat and the air conditioning, and they're battling it out in the front seat and start like a tornado. And so I think that's what we got going on there. That seems like a real what you've got going on there is a real package shot. And I think in honor of that, I want to play this because I know this is a little bit out of order and this is out of context. But guys, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. And we're going to get to this a little bit later. I think the whole topic of officials and this, that, and the other. But I wanted to share this video, which I found online of an OHSAA boys basketball game between Hilliard Bradley and And Reynolds, and this is absolutely, and I'm gonna say this. I know you're gonna laugh at me. This is absolutely not pun intended here. All right, so let's go to the video, and hopefully I can get some soundage out of it here. But let's try it out. Let's see what we got. But as you can see, brings the ball up out of the backcourt. A little bit of pressure here. Now onto the left side, pass across right side, goes across the half-court line. Oh, and a fake fall there. Now he's going to get back up. Defender got to get back into position. Up on the defender. And a low blow. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Damn that Austin. Damn that Austin.
Wait. Can we see that one more time?
Down goes Anderson. Down goes Anderson.
All right, so let's back it up here. Let's back it up. Can we get, if I can do it, which hopefully I can. Oh, wait there. Oh, he is writhing in pain. I mean, are you kidding me here? See if we can get this back to where it was, I think. Okay, so here we go. Oh, look at that.
Oh,
look at the shot.
That does not feel good.
So did he get ejected for that?
Nothing.
No.
I heard.
Nothing.
Not even a penalty?
No technical foul, no ejection, nothing.
I hope since this video is now out there, he at least gets an apology, because there's no faking that.
No, he should be suspended for the next game of the tournament.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good, as he should be.
He should. I don't know if they have or not, but I mean, how can you not suspend this guy? He punched him in the nuts.
I mean, this is
Now, what I want to know is, did the other guy get retaliation for it? Because I would want it.
Well, I think he was probably on the
Does the other guy get like a free
I don't
shot?
think he went back in the game.
Yeah. This is like Draymond Green 2.0.
Yes, that is exactly right, Mike. That is what somebody said. Oh, he got his inner Draymond Green. Okay. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to share that because I thought that's, again, pun intended. That's just nuts.
Do we know who won the game? Did the blue team, I don't know which one's blue, did they at least win?
Reynoldsburg did not win. So it was really adding injury to insult. I don't know which it is. That's just it's painful on so many levels. And I saw that and thought, oh, I got to bring this up because this is crazy here. And Taven, you're covering a lot. Taven, Nate, you guys are covering lots of high school basketball. Taven, Nate, have you seen anything this egregious?
Not to that extent. I mean, the most insane thing that I wasn't even there to, see it, but I've seen videos of it. It was a McKinley versus St. V's girls game, and like all the benches cleared, and there was like 5 suspensions for like each team or something nuts like that. But that was by far the most crazy thing that I've seen, high school season so far.
Right. What about you, Nate? Anything?
So it did not happen to me personally. Happened to actually my sports director at the radio station. But it's kind of one of just those weird, odd technicalities where the game didn't start with a jump ball because one of the teams was dunking without an official present during warmups, which is a technical foul. And so you don't start the game with a jump ball. You start with technical free throws and possession. So there's one of the weird things that you could see in high school sports. So
that's crazy. I have never seen that. Of course, I'm not at many. I'm trying to think the last time I called a high school game in Ohio would have been 2001 or something like that. I didn't see a lot of dunks in my time, but I saw a few. Saw a few. So anyway,
you got to get up for the dunks.
You do. Well, have you guys ever heard the clip, Mike? I don't know about you, but there's this clip that they played last year. They played on ESPN Cleveland. They found it. This guy goes crazy. He's like, "There's a steal, Sanfredi with a dunk." Boom, 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 let the man fly. And he goes crazy. And it's the funniest thing ever. Like, this dude was waiting for this the entire season to see this guy get this dunk. Oh, let the man fly. Boom, boom, boom. I don't care if he gets a technical. It was crazy. That's
not what the future voice of the Cleveland Rockers would say if he saw it.
No, I'd be saying
WNBA. No,
that too. No, we play below the rim, guys. That's what I'm talking about. Just we're playing big fundamental, big Tim Duncan guy here. Anyway, all right, guys. Well, I digress on that. I got us way off topic, but I thought it was, newsworthy. It was nutworthy. I mean, noteworthy. I'm sorry. My bad.
Uh-oh.
How many puns can I throw out here? All right. Guys,
Good thing it's only YouTube.
What's that?
I said, good thing it's only YouTube.
Exactly. All right. Guardians back in action today. They got a win today, but it was against the Angels. They play pretty well against the Angels, but some of these other games not so good. It's March the 4th, so here's my question to the group, everybody, to kind of give their 2 cents. When or should we be worried about the Guardians starting pitching rotation? We'll go around. Nate, Mike, Taven. Nate, what do you got?
I'd like to start with this because I'm just gonna I don't know if it's necessarily setting a precedent, but you have one camp of people that's going to say it's spring training, it doesn't matter, let's see how they perform in the actual season. Or then you have the other camp that will say, oh, like they're just trying to work back into things. They haven't pitched in a real game in forever. Let's just let them get back into the swing of things. So I'm more curious on what side all you guys are on. Do you want to hold their hand, or are you like, this is go time right now? Obviously, you're still trying to pitch for a rotation spot because Taven and I went over this on our podcast. When everyone in this Guardians rotation is pitching at full strength, I feel like this is a team that could have 8 to 9 of bona fide starters, maybe not top tier guys, but bona fide 5 to 6 inning starters for this rotation. And some of the things that I've seen, I'm lost on Tristan McKenzie. That boat has sailed for me. Taven, same thing. But some of the other guys like Slade, I'm kind of, I'm bullish on him right now. Ben Lively's kind of been the only guy that I've looked at and said, yeah, he looks like he's got the stuff. And obviously without Shane Bieber, and I don't think we've seen Tanner Bybee pitch yet. Like it's a mixed bag for me.
All right, Mike, what about you?
Yeah, to answer your question, I'm on the side of let them use this time to perfect their game. So if they don't pitch well, I think that's okay because maybe they're working on something. Maybe they're working on more rotation or a better curveball or something, and you got to go through the bumps. And you want the bumps to happen now in spring training. Totally get the point that some guys actually are fighting for a roster spot. So obviously they've got to go a little harder. But for the guys that know they're going to make the team, I'm okay with them struggling. But I will point out, I think part of what made the Guardians so good last year is the fast start that they got off to. So I think it'll really behoove them this year too to do the same thing to really start out strong. And they'll need to really perfect their game in spring training to make that happen. As far as the pitching goes, just ESPN has their our top 5, and they list Tanner Bybee 1, Gavin Williams 2. I think he's going to be key, getting him back healthy and having him be a legit number 2. Then we have Luis Ortiz 3, Ben Lively 4, and Joey Cantillo 5. Is at least how ESPN has it right now.
Right. I gotcha. What about you, Taven? Where do you stand on this? Is it? Am I being? Have I hit the panic button too early? Should I be worried about this rotation and what we've seen in the very early part of spring training?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. Personally, I wouldn't buy too much into, the performances in spring training. Just like Mike said, they might be working on something here or there, trying to get something down. But, I mean, even in the offseason before spring training started, I wasn't too high on our rotation. I like Bybee, I like Williams, but outside of those two guys, the beginning of the season is really going to be up in the air. I mean, you saw Ortiz was shaky. I'm not buying too much into that, but he got rocked a little bit. And then you got guys like Slade, who you look at his stats from last year. He's not really promising. The ship has sailed for McKenzie, like Nate said. For me, I don't think, he's a valuable option. And you got a lot of young guys that, can add to that rotation. You have Joey Cantillo. And then I think, down the line, even like early May, I think you're going to see guys like Doug Nikhazy and, maybe Ryan Webb get a shot who might not start the year.
And I was going to throw out that name. I mean, Doug Nikhazy has been, if you want to buy into something in spring training, buy into Doug Nikhazy. Taven and I think he's going to make the big league roster at some point this year. It could be a lot earlier than we expect, because if Vogt is seeing things that we are not seeing, because obviously it's a lot easier to see stuff from his perspective than ours. If he's seeing stuff these guys are just not pitching well, I think Nikhazy is probably one of the guys that can create an opening day roster spot for himself. I mean, he's pitched 4 innings. His K per 9 isn't fantastic. It isn't exceptional, but it's an even 9. I mean, 4 innings, 4 strikeouts, not bad. His whip is a .25. He hasn't allowed a run yet, hasn't even allowed a hit yet. I'm really loving what Doug Nikhazy's doing right now.
Then you look at his age, and he's only 25 too, so he's not like crazy young. Where he can add a ton of value even at the beginning of the season if one of these guys struggle with like your Ortiz or a guy like that.
Right. And I mean, that Luis Ortiz was such a big part of the Andres Jimenez deal.
Yep.
We flip him to Toronto, and then, send Jimenez to Toronto. We get Horwitz, and then we flip him to Pukesburg, and we get Luis Ortiz. He's got to come up big. We need him. And I will be curious. I hope that Bobby can, continue what he did last season and even, go above and beyond that. We cannot have another season of our starting pitchers barely making it into the 6th inning. You can't do it. Can you give me 6 stinking innings?
I mean, if there's a team that's, gonna be able to, survive with only getting 5 out of it, it's going to be us with that bullpen, though, don't you think?
Yeah, but we saw what happened in the postseason. We ran out of gas, and
here's the other thing about that too, is baseball is one of the weird oddities that you really don't know what you can expect from guys on a per season basis unless they're Shohei Ohtani, unless they're an Aaron Judge. Like if you look at everyone in this rotation, Ben Lively pitched his you-know-what off last year, and I don't really know if we're going to get that sort of performance from him again this season. We could, because he's shown it, but who knows, right? And some of the bullpen guys, everyone in that bullpen was fantastic last year. Who's to say 1 or 2 of them doesn't really struggle next year, and guys are finding a way to hit their cutter or hit their 4-seam better or hit their slider. Baseball is one of those weird things where one little change or one thing not working is going to be disastrous in your stats and how you perform.
Let me ask this question. So say we do have a strong bullpen like we did last year, and we have all these arms coming back. Could the Guardians play like the Tigers did in the last half of the season, where they start with openers? They essentially do a bullpen game every day. I think they called it chaos baseball, and it worked for them. I mean, they were they had a 0.1% chance to make the playoffs. They implement this strategy with their bullpen, and they end up making the playoffs. Is that something the Guardians could try?
So then something I would think is, just if you're going to do that, then who's going to open for you? Because at this point, if you really aren't set on Ortiz being a starter and you want him as an opener, he's even struggled the first time through the order in all these spring training games. So I wouldn't open with him if you're going to read into spring training. Slade, maybe, because I think he'll figure stuff out. I mean, that's just the question that Vogt is going to have to answer is, okay, if you want to go with openers, which he's not going to start that way, you're going to start seeing what guys can give you out of that rotation. But yeah, to me, it's just the question of then who becomes your starters, and do you sacrifice a guy like Cade Smith for 2 or 3 innings to go the first time through the order instead of saving him for when guys have already seen 30 pitches for a game?
Right. Hey, Taven, what do you think? Talk about the bullpen. Mike might be why we've strengthened an already strong bullpen. What's our bullpen going to be looking like? I mean, we're going to have Clase at the back end and Cade Smith. What do we got there?
Yeah. Obviously, you're going to have your big guys. You're going to have, Clase. He's obviously the best closer in the league for a reason. And then, you got the other guys that produced last year. You got Tim Herron. You got Cade Smith. You got Gaddis, who all did amazing. You dealt Nick Sandlin to Toronto and got Eli Morgan out of there, which I thought were 2 great moves. And, a lot of people are kind of asking, what's going to look different. And that's the 2 guys you picked up in free agency. You got Paul Sewald, who's a proven veteran. I love the addition of him. You know, he brings a lot to a very young bullpen. And then you got Jacob Junis, another guy who had a 2-something ERA with Milwaukee last year. So I mean, just going off of the numbers, he looks promising too. And then me and Native touched on it, you know, on our show. You have a ton of young guys like your Sobrowskis and your Walters, who were up at the end of last year, who I think are going to make big strides this year. Another guy that was in Columbus last year with a 1.99 ERA, big name to look out for, Franco Aleman. He reminds me a lot of Cade Smith when he was down with Columbus and Akron. And, you know, if you add another Cade Smith, that's going to get dangerous. So Franco Aleman's another name.
And we love that guy. We absolutely love him. We think he's going to be a star.
Yep.
All right, put your money. Hey, Mike, did you get that for the gambling apps? We got to put some money on that guy. You know, put him in, pencil him in.
This is not betting advice. We don't give that out.
Do you know where?
We don't want to be liable for that.
Where did he come from? Was he a draft pick by us?
That's a good question.
I want to say it was an international signing.
That's what I think too.
And was last year his first year in AAA?
No, actually, that's wrong. So Aleman was a 2021 draft pick. He was picked in the 10th round out of Florida.
Oh,
okay. All right, SEC guy. SEC, real nice. Okay,
but he is from Cuba, so
okay.
Well,
if only we could have the Tribe front office draft for the Browns. I think we'd be all right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right. We'll touch on those. We'll touch on those guys, you know, a little later here. No, so, okay. Mike and I talked about this a little bit last week, and, you know, I was starting to wonder. I'm looking at the hitting statistics, and I'm not overly impressed. One thing that did pop out to me, the catcher position. And I saw John Ingles hitting pretty well. I don't know. What are you thoughts on that?
So here's the Ingle? Yeah. So I don't mean to cut you. ESPN's just wrong. I don't look at ESPN. Yeah, it's Cooper.
Ingle. Why did they have him as John Ingle then?
That's
wondering about that.
Yeah.
When I saw that too, I was just like, okay, this just ESPN's done. No, it's Cooper Ingle, and if we want to dive into that conversation, I mean, Cooper Ingle is a guy that can hit 300 at the catcher position. You don't see that hardly ever. He did it in college. He's doing it at the pro levels now. And I mean, Cooper Ingle, your question on here is, does he have a good shot to make the opening day roster? I don't think he's going to make the opening day roster, but if he keeps playing like this, he's hitting 667 in spring training amongst, I got to see how many at-bats he's got, but if he can continue to hit like that, he's going to be a bona fide stud. And if you want to look for a guy, and Bo Naylor still doesn't have it, you already gave away the one Naylor brother, so who knows, we could ship the other. Austin Hedges is never going to provide anything with the bat at all. So why not just go ahead and throw Cooper Ingle up? I mean, that's
I almost have the same stats as Hedges. I think we all do. But he does have some good chest hair. Good chest hair there. Might be better than mine for sure. No, I saw Cooper Ingle. Thank you for correcting that, because I thought it was Cooper Ingle, and I'm seeing
ESPN needs to get their you-know-what together. That's ridiculous.
That is terrible. I mean, I have no. Does anybody else here have? Is ye of little faith in Bo Naylor by show of hands?
I've got faith.
Fall on that train.
He's still young. Let him play through it. You know, last year was his first full year in the big leagues. You know, let's see what he does this year.
All right, that
and maybe without his brother, who knows? He's going to pick up the Naylor slack that we might be missing out on. So
it's true.
Oh, so he's going to swing at off-speed pitches and strike out and have his helmet fly off?
Well, 30 homers.
That's true.
Yeah, that guy was about as good as I am at baseball in the second half of the season. Give me a break. Come on, man.
As John Kruk once said, I'm a baseball player. I'm not an athlete.
All right. Yeah.
And I know what the people say, no fence riders. You get to be on one side or the other side of the fence. I'm going to ride the fence on Bo Naylor, because I think he shows some good things, and there's some flashes of power, but the strikeout rate is concerning, and the decisions at the plate are not great, and he's not too good defensively, even though he did get better last year.
Yeah. What'd you say, Taven? What'd you say about his ability behind the dish?
Can't throw anybody out.
That's not a good thing if you're a catcher, and he doesn't call as good of a game as someone like Hedges.
Like Hedges, yeah. And if you're going to go with a catcher, in my opinion, like watching the playoffs, I wanted Hedges in the lineup. Obviously, he has one of the worst bats I've ever seen, but defensively, the dude's an all-star. So if one of them can give me 100% on one end and nothing on the other, and the other one's just kind of 20% on both ends,
right?
Give me the dude that's going to be an all-star on one end and trash on the other. That's my opinion.
Right, and we don't even have the option this season. I don't think he'll even be able to do it by the end of the season of David Fry as like that alternate utility player who could potentially go behind the plate, which kind of sucks. I hope he gets well soon because he was very valuable in the playoffs, even with his injury. Big Christmas. Today he hit a jack. He jacked one, but through the first 5, he was 2 for 12 with 6 strikeouts. Anybody can Big Christmas deliver some presents, or is he going to constantly leave us wishing we had more gifts under the tree? Taven, what are your thoughts there, sir?
So my opinion on Noel has pretty much been the same since like 2022 when he was in AA.
All right.
He's a good power hitter, but he'll hit like 170 with 25 home runs. Now, my other issue, that's not really a big issue. You see that with a ton of guys. Mm-hmm. But my main issue is you don't have a spot to really play him. I know they like trying him out in right field, but I mean, the dude is one of the slowest guys in the league, in my opinion. So you can't put him in right. And then the DH spot's already, taken up by a Santana or Manzardo. So I think Noel's just kind of going to be a guy that floats around the bench. They might try him out in right, but personally, I love, I'm a Will Brennan fan, and I love Will Brennan. Let's not forget what he did last year. He hit 265. The power's not there, but if you hit 265 and you're borderline Gold Glove candidate, I'm taking that over a guy who, hits 170 with maybe, 22 home runs a year. That's just my opinion, though.
I got you. Mike, what do you think? Is Christmas going to be special for us, or is it Christmas going to be lacking the gifts? Are we going to get a lump of coal?
Well, I'm a little scared he's going to turn into another SpongeBob. Gonzalez had that great season for us, or the really good season. I won't call it a great season. And then he just kind of dropped off the face of the earth. And I think last year, didn't he spend the year in the Yankees farm system or something? So he hasn't been back to the big league since then. And he had a memorable home run in the playoffs, just like Big Christmas did last year for us. So I guess, unfortunately, their careers are kind of mirroring each other. I will say, I did think Big Christmas played a better right field than I expected, though. For as big as he was, he had good fundamentals. So I think there's hope there, but he also falls into the camp of Naylor and maybe being perennially out of shape, which is not great. And we were so desperate for a power hitter. I think we're putting a lot of eggs in this basket, but we do have a lot of outfield prospects too. So hopefully one of them can come up and show something
or stay healthy.
Yeah. Oh, also true.
Yeah, that as well. I mean, Nate, what do you think, or where do you follow?
So let's just go through the outfield for a second. Kwan's going to play left. Lane Thomas is going to play center. That is not going to change. Yep. We said it before. That right fielder. Who is that guy that's going to stick it right? You have Brennan that you could put out there. Again, Big Christmas is going to make some of the easy stuff look difficult, and it is just because his mobility is not going to be great. But I echo Mike's point. I think he played a lot better of a right field than I expected someone of that size to be. They probably are going to use him as more of a DH and give Santana or Manzardo some rest. Freeman, you could try him out in right field. I mean, he's played center before. I don't like the Guardians' notion of trying to turn these infielders into outfielders. I just don't like it. And then you obviously have DeLauder. I know I'm getting a little ahead of schedule here, but he just went through core muscle surgery and is going to be out for at most 3 months. It's been foot issues with him, and now I think that was to solve a hernia of some sort. If
hernia,
if I'm right in that. I mean, just when the guy stays healthy, we've seen it in live BP. We've seen it in spring training, and I saw it in Akron. That he hit one home run out of the Akron Stadium, and it didn't even look like he swung that hard. You could throw some other guys in there as well. I mean, Jonathan Rodriguez just hit a home run in there as well, so I think he can definitely be a big factor in right field, but I expect a platoon. Maybe if Angel Martinez sees more time, you could play him in right. I expect we're going to see a platoon of guys in right field. But mark my words, if DeLauder stays healthy and he gets consistent, he's going to start to be your everyday right fielder. I do firmly believe that.
Okay, but you're talking about if he
Yep.
can stay healthy. And that's huge. We can't have ifs. We need someone who's in the stinking lineup every day. And I need somebody who's a bona fide power hitter to anchor the middle of this lineup. Otherwise, we are going to stay. I mean, I love Carlos Santana. He's the man, but like, I don't know. And Manzardo's good. I worry. We need another big bat. When was the last time the Guardians had a consistent power hitter that struck fear since like Albert Bell and David Justice, or Jim Thome or Manny Ramirez? Those guys. I don't remember in the past like 20 years somebody who has been consistent, not like a little flash in the pan, but consistent. I'm not talking Nick Swisher. I'm not talking, which other jabroni has come up?
I think we can exclude Jose Ramirez from this conversation too. I mean, you know what you're going to get out of Jose. He's going to produce every single game.
Right.
So do you think we could have, we haven't talked about Bazzana yet, and obviously he's a few years out.
Right.
Could we get DeLauder and Bazzana up at the same time? Are we like 2 to 3 years out where maybe we could see that hitting renaissance if these guys – I mean, they're all projections. Nobody knows how they're actually going to do.
Yeah.
And I think that, it looks like they have the ability to actually be the power hitters we've been seeking.
Right.
Taven, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, me and Nate have really hammered it home on Bazzana because it seems like that's the number one question. Like, when is he going to be up? When's he going to be the guy? Because that's why you dealt Andres Jimenez at the end of the day. You need a spot for Bazzana. That's where he's going to go. I personally think he is going to start the year in Akron. He's going to, probably go till about middle of June, beginning of July, end the year with, Columbus. And then I think he starts next season with the Guardians. I don't think that we see him this year. I think this is the year you kind of see what you have with a guy like Juan Brito or, your other guys in your system like that, who has not been off to a great start. He's 1 for 13 at the plate in spring training, hitting 77. But again, you can't really buy too much into it with Brito. He was amazing the last, 3 years in the minor leagues. So I think he'll bounce back. But again, you got to see what you have in, a Brito before you really move on to Bazzana. And also another good point is our owners are cheap. So as long as you can keep him under control that's what they're going to do. So I think this is a minor league year for Bazzana, and then we'll see him in the majors next year.
Well, I don't know how much I can count on a burrito, but I know I can count on tacos too. Burrito. Juan Brito, yeah, he's solid. Yeah, let me tell you something about burritos, guys. This is just a random story here. I'm not quite exactly to my full. I'm not going to go completely nuclear about this, but where on earth do you think it's a great idea to say, hey, let me jam an entire collegiate softball team into a freaking Chipotle and take out the whole restaurant? Who does this? Where are we living? Come on.
I just traveled with our men's basketball team to call a tournament game, and we put all of those guys in a Qdoba. So
yeah, but how many guys are on a basketball team? Like 12? Or how big is your roster?
We traveled, I think, 13 plus. There were about 20 people in there.
All right. This was the JMU softball team was at a tournament.
So probably 30.
It was a lot. There were no seats in there. They took up all, I don't even know. They were out of tortillas. Anyway, I'm going off the rails here, and I need to get it back under control here. So, all right. Any other takeaways from the early spring training, guys, that we should either be excited about or kind of worried about? Nate, anything?
Yes, I do have one. I'm going to give all the flowers in the world to what Brian Rocchio is doing right now. The dude is picking up exactly where he left off last October. If anyone had any concerns about him being the everyday shortstop, shut him down right now, because that dude has found something. He can hit. He's going to be a great everyday defensive player. Brian Rocchio is going to be the next great shortstop to play for the Cleveland Indians Guardians. I mean, Lindor has obviously been there, not comparing him to Lindor at all, because I don't know if he's at that talent level, but the way that he's hitting the baseball, the way he's squaring it up, and the way that his glove looks, Brian Rocchio is maybe not my surprise of the spring so far, but he's definitely my most like, oh, really good for him. Like, that's exactly what we want to see. Exactly what we want to see.
Yep.
All right. Taven, what about you? Any big takeaways here from the early spring training?
Yeah, I mean, I got one, and it kind of segues into a question I wanted, your guys' opinion on. Will Brennan, he's hitting 357, in spring training, and there's been a lot of, concern. I've seen it. A lot of people don't think he can be the guy, and that leads to a big question. I mean, who do you guys think is going to be, the starting right fielder for opening day for this roster? Because I personally believe I think it's going to be Brennan. He's played one heck of a spring training. Like I said, he's amazing in the field. And I looked at a stat. He had the same batting average as Stephen Kwan in 2023.
Wow. Mike, what do you think, bud?
Yeah, that's I don't know who else would start in right field. I mean, I guess you platoon those two with having Brennan take the majority of the starts, I guess. That I think you're right. I don't know who else we would have. So I'm with you there. And then I'm also curious for your guys' take on who do you think is going to be the opening day starter at second base for the Guards.
I'll answer the right field debate first. I don't know if I can really pin an opening day starter. I mean, opening day, it probably will be Brennan, but reality, if you want a long-term starter, I mean, Brennan, you could see Noel there. I would not discount Jonathan Rodriguez. I mean, looking at his numbers now, by the way, Brennan's batting average did drop. Sorry, Taven. It's a 250 now after today's game against the Angels. Rodriguez is hitting an even 300, and he has a home run in there as well. So I wouldn't discount him one little bit. I think Rodriguez is going to be a huge force in right field. Again, they're going to platoon those guys. And at second base, Taven, you can piggyback off me because I think we're going to say the same thing. It's got to be Brito. I mean, I don't really see anyone else starting in there. Maybe Gabby Arias can come in and platoon. Schneeman's a guy that can play second. Taven, I know you don't really like Arias. He was raking in the Venezuelan league, and I think he's changed a lot of things with his swing that's going to help him maybe not get power, but get a little bit more bat on ball and change his approach at the plate. But that's another guy that when you want to give Jose a day off, you can play him at third. You can play him at second. If you want to give Rocchio a day off, put him at short. Really, the only place you can't play him in the infield is first base.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, Burrito's obviously the number one guy. I don't like Arias. I know you do. You're big on him. He had a great offseason, but I mean, I just think we've seen enough out of him to where I don't know. I'm not big on him. I don't think he's ever really going to climb out of that 220 hole. And you have too many guys that, kind of linger there with your Angel Martinez. He's another guy that kind of fits in that Arias boat. So Schneeman's another guy who's been up there. I like Schneeman, but I think it's going to be Burrito with, Schneeman kind of in there as a utility guy.
Yeah, I think it's Brito and then a platoon of guys.
Yep. I think you guys are on the money there. And speaking of money here, I think now, before we segue to our next topic, now would be a good time to let the sponsors have a word. You are tuned in to Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land. And welcome back, everybody, to Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land here. We are a part of the Fanatical Elves Network, and that is a subsidiary. We are a subsidiary of the Fans First Sports Network as well. Ethan Greenberg here alongside of me is my co-host, Mike Rasinski, and joining us tonight, Taven and Nate, the fellas. They are hosts of the Prospects of the Land podcast. Anything you want to know about everything that is going on in the Guardians farm system, these are the guys. Please give Nate and Taven and their show a follow. Give Believeland a media a follow. Everything they've got going on over there to keep up, because these guys know what they're talking about. Really appreciate them being on. So it looks like the Bulls are letting us know that we shouldn't be playing without Evan Mobley tonight.
Yeah, what's up with the Cavs liking to get down by double digits and then come back to win the game? So do you think they can do it today? Because they're down by 13 right now.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say no. Not tonight, my friend. We're against a terrible team, and we are coming out flat again, and we don't have Mobley, and everybody seems like they forgot to play basketball. And therein lies the issue that I understand that we're not playing with Mobley tonight. Great, good, wonderful, lovely. What is this crap? What is this garbage, guys? How often can the Cavs keep having these sluggish starts and expect not to get burned? You go into Boston and you get down 25 to stinking 3, and only because Boston has a attention deficit disorder, and they were down a couple of guys, we came all the way back and won that game, which I was shocked and I was happy about it. But then we go out and we play Portland, and we were underwhelming in that game. Now, granted, the officiating was an absolute poop show of epic proportions, and that's about the nicest way I can even think to put it. As Mike from the UK asked, when are we starting the GoFundMe account to pay for the fine that Ty Jerome had to get to call out that one official, because they were the whole crew of them. How long did it take to blow a whistle? The foul is there. What are you waiting around for? You having a rainy day? Wait a second, it's going down the other can. No. I'm going to make this show about me, and I'm going to blow the whistle now. Get out of here. Enough. Just enough of that nonsense. All right, guys, so I'm going to ask you, the sluggish starts. Are we going to get burned here? When are we going to stop putzing around and playing with our food, and are we going to get burned? Mike, let's go to you first on this one.
Yeah, and on the Portland game, too, they did release that 2-minute report, and they said that the officials blew 2 calls in the last 2 minutes against the Cavs, which really would have won the game in regulation. I don't know. So I think the reason they're getting down, too, is because they have this rest strategy for their players. So tonight we don't have Evan Mobley. Last game we didn't have Donovan Mitchell. I think in Boston they were just shell-shocked to start the game, and they eventually recovered. I think these games are showing character as well, to show that they're not giving up, that they are coming back. And, the Boston win was huge, down by 22 in Boston. Like I said, get over that shell shock, come back and win. We thought the next game was going to be a trap game, and it sure looked like it. And yet they come back from, I think, 18 points down in this game. Yeah. We're down 13 this game. We'll see if they can come back. It's only second quarter. I think this will tell a lot to see what they can do. But I do like that they are resting the starters and sticking with their plan, because they have, now that they beat Boston, they have that 7.5 game lead, very, very comfortable. So I'm not too concerned. I'm glad to see them overcoming this adversity of these big deficits too, which hopefully will give them confidence in the playoffs.
Right. I mean, Taven, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it, today and, the game against Portland was because you've had your key guys out. You don't have Mobley tonight, Mitchell, against Portland. But at the end of the day, even with those guys out, you're substantially better than all these teams. So I think, these are dog days this season, March. Guys might get a little lackadaisical. So, you might lose a couple games. This is the month that you would lose a couple that you're supposed to win, but I wouldn't read too much into it.
All right, Nate, what about you from afar?
I'm gonna echo your guys' thoughts. I know I'm all the way in Nebraska, but I've been keeping a very close eye on this Cavs team, and I actually want to, if we can, pivot into talking about that Celtics game because I have a question for all of you. I'm a big basketball guy, and basketball is probably the one sport that I can never be happy watching. I got to point something out that's wrong. Did you guys notice the change that the Cavs made in that fourth quarter to help with that comeback? There was one thing that they changed, and I want to know if you guys know what it was.
Well, they went with Dean. They were putting in Dean. They didn't have Jared Allen on the floor. They also went kind of small. They had like Dean Wade playing like center, right? Is that what you're going for?
There were some personnel things, where you had Allen come off and you started DeAndre Hunter in that spot. But I'm talking on more of a philosophical thing.
Was it the switch to zone defense?
It was the zone. Okay, so I'll go ahead and
reveal. Come on, yeah, give it up. Let's go.
So if you notice throughout the first three quarters, what Boston does, they do it better than any other team in basketball, is they hunt the mismatches. And they hunt Darius Garland. And weirdly enough, they were hunting Mobley and Allen throughout parts of that game. And they force those switches. And the Cavs were just conceding them. They were like, all right, yeah, sure. We'll go ahead and allow this switch to happen. In the fourth quarter, when Dean Wade was on, when DeAndre Hunter was on, they were icing those screens. They were hedging those screens. They weren't conceding those switches as easier to get more unfavorable matchups. Like one play in particular, they tried to run Brown on a switch, and I think Hunter was guarding him, and Darius Garland was the guy that was supposed to get screened. Beautiful icing, hedging, I forget which one it was, to prevent that from happening. DeAndre Hunter stays on Jaylen Brown, and there's no more time to run any more switches. You have to go. You have to try to get to the bucket. And friends, also another question, what's the scouting report on Jaylen Brown? He can't use his left hand.
Oh, that is good to know.
He cannot use his left hand. So what DeAndre Hunter does, knowing that, forces Brown to go with the left hand. Brown misses the shot. The Cavs come down and get a bucket on the other end. That possession before Kenny Atkinson called a timeout. It's just those little things and little in-game adjustments like that I think perfectly exemplify what Kenny Atkinson has done for this team. And the fact, too, to go to the lineup of having DeAndre Hunter on there with Evan Mobley, no Jared Allen on the floor, and then you go with Mitchell and Strus and Garland or whoever else you want to put out there. When you go with Hunter and Mobley, the Cavs finally have a small forward with some height and length that can get you some buckets while also playing a really good brand of defense. And I'm not comparing him to LeBron because we all know the caliber of player that LeBron James still is at 40 years old, but he's given the Cavs something that they have lacked in the JB Bickerstaff era, which is a lengthy small forward with some absolutely tremendous defensive ability. And look at what he did against Portland. 32 points, hitting some massive threes down the stretch. If you still had any questions about this trade, I mean, they absolutely fixed it. Or I'd say they absolutely answered any questions anyone had about the DeAndre Hunter trade. We also don't win that game in Boston without Donovan Mitchell on the court either.
Exactly. No, those are all really, really, great insight there, Nate. I hadn't specifically noticed that. I was too busy yelling about the people at the James Madison team. And I was also trying to watch. I was flipping between the Cavs game and the Kent State Akron game. And I was watching the end of the second semifinal of the Old Dominion Athletic Conference tournament to see who we were going to be playing Saturday night, who Randolph Macon was going to play for the title on Saturday night. So I didn't necessarily see those particular things there. Donovan Mitchell he was fantastic in Boston. What an amazing game. He goes 41 points, 5 assists, 10 of 11 from the foul line. But what the hell was Max Strus doing? 2 points? 2 points? He was much better against Portland, but 2 points? Are we serious?
Yeah, you know what was interesting about that game too, and I'm trying to bring up the stats here, but if you look at the advanced stats and the plus minuses,
it was crazy.
Our starters were all minus
like 20 or
double digits, but our reserves were all plus double digits.
Exactly. DeAndre Hunter was, for example, plus 21. He had 12 points. Mobley was practically non-existent until about that fourth quarter. He was kind of meh. It's like, what are you waiting for today, Junior? I don't get it. Like, let's not mess around here. That was a huge win. And I mean, it's something to build on. If you were, okay, so guys, let me ask you this. If you're a Boston fan, what are you telling yourselves to console yourself after the loss? What is your coping mechanism there? Taven, what do you got? Let me go to Taven, then Nate will get to you. Taven, what's your coping mechanism if you're a Boston Celtic fan after you blow a 22-point lead in that game this past Friday?
Just watch replays of Tatum on the court and saying, "Get the you know what out."
Okay.
What was with that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, does he sit there? Like, how do they, kind of console themselves and say, "Oh, well, this or that or the other"? What excuses do they have, Taven?
No, well, I mean, they obviously didn't have Kristaps Porzingis, which is one of the biggest pieces of their team. And I think when he's on the floor, it's a different story because you have somebody to match up with Allen better and Mobley and a guy like that. But obviously, you can't drop games like that. I think if we do run into them in the Eastern Conference Finals, which I think personally that's what will happen. I think it's going to go 7. I think these teams are very evenly matched. I think it's really just going to come down to the small things. And if you're Boston, you're kind of just holding on to that. You didn't have Kristaps in that one.
Okay, that's their coping mechanism there. All right, Nate, what about you? What kind of coping are they doing over in Beantown?
They're the champs.
Hey,
they're the champs. And this is a regular season game that I'm not going to don't think this is what I'm doing for a second. I'm not downplaying what this means for Cleveland. This is massive for Cleveland. It's got to be a huge confidence boost. Yes, even though they didn't have, and even without Drew Holiday too, who is probably the best defensive match maybe besides Jaylen Brown for what Donovan Mitchell can throw at you offensively, even though I don't know if he's going to be that great of a defensive player on Donovan Mitchell, just based on what Mitchell can do. But Boston is the champs, and they just have not been that good at home this year, weirdly. And let's also not overlook, I know Donovan Mitchell had a Herculean effort in that one, put the team on his back. So did Tatum and Brown. It seemed like they just couldn't miss in that stupid sidestep 3 for Jason Tatum. I don't know how he puts that in every single time, but it works, and he's got it in his bag. And the Cavs have got to find a way to respect that, and you got to play DeAndre Hunter on him. But anyway, I'm getting too far into it. Boston is the champs. It's going to be really important for Cleveland they've now all but secured the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. I just don't see them losing it. Knock on wood. But I mean, home court advantage is going to be absolutely massive. And if they can get that extra game at home against Boston, that's going to make the world of difference, but you have to beat them in the postseason. They did do it last year. They won game 2 in TD Garden, but doing it knowing that Boston has a ring on their finger is going to mean so much more. And I think it means more they did it in the regular season, but there's a lot more chess that Kenny Atkinson is going to have to play once they finally get to the postseason against this Celtic team. Because if Brown and Tatum are going to do that every night, Cavs are going to lose in 5 or 6. I'm sorry.
Fair. Mike, what about you? What do you think? What are they saying to console themselves?
I'll say what Boston is saying too is look at the tape from last year. Last year, the Cavs were down by 22 in Boston, came back and won, and it didn't affect them in the postseason at all.
Right.
But here's what I'll say what's different from this Cavs team from last year. If you look at, you're talking about like Tatum and Brown, they're like a 2-man show. That's all the Celtics are good, but they rely on their starters so much. You had Tatum played 41 minutes. You had Hauser and Horford played 38 minutes, Derek White 41, Jaylen Brown 34 minutes. Their bench doesn't play all that much. I know they were missing a couple players. The most we had, Mitchell played 35 minutes, Garland played 32. Nobody else broke the 30-minute mark for our team, and we were still able to come back. And I think that depth is going to be key to this team, and we didn't play like that last year. And I think that's going to be the difference.
Right, exactly. And
if I may piggyback off that as well, Darius Garland was 20 pounds underweight because he had his jaw wired shut and didn't have his confidence. We just flat out didn't have Ty Jerome or DeAndre Hunter last year, which to me, the DeAndre Hunter trade put the Cavs slightly over the top from a roster constructive standpoint. Now, it's one thing to say that, and it's another to go out and do it in the postseason. But given all that's happened with both of these teams this year, I mean, I still feel really good about where the Cavs are at to challenge the Celtics team. I feel really good.
Yeah, that is fair. And you talked about kind of the role players and just, the escape artistry that the Cavs had on Sunday against Portland, was fantastic, and they had to rely on Ty Jerome and DeAndre Hunter to carry that team. But let me ask you guys this. This is just basketball strategery here. And I think good point here. Mike Dean Wade was out. Mitchell got hurt game 3. All those things that happened, like Jared Allen was out, all those things last year. At the end of the game, the Cavs are up by 3. We've got 2 fouls to give, and Portland has the ball. So they ultimately barely take any time off the clock and commit those 2 fouls. Then, instead of letting them run a play up by 3, they foul, and Simon hits 2 free throws. Then we go down to the other end after we successfully inbounded the ball, which is always a problem with JB. Garland ends up splitting a pair, which is uncharacteristic, for like an almost 90% free throw shooter. But why not just play it out? They need to hit a 3 just to tie. Play it out, play strong defense. If they hit the 3, they hit the 3 at this point, because now you split the pair and they're only down by 2 right there. Strus gets called for the foul, which, as we know from the 2-minute report, shouldn't have even been a foul, but they tied up with 2 shots. They could have won it very easily there. Was anybody else screaming at their televisions? Mike, were you screaming at the TV?
Yeah, I didn't really understand that strategy all that much. I mean, I get it. Like Garland, he's a really good free throw shooter, but those things can always happen if you're playing like that. So I agree. I mean, we have a very good defensive team.
Exactly.
Let them take a tough 3-pointer. The odds of them making that, I think, are less than playing the free throw game. I would think. I'm not a Vegas gambler, but I like our chances playing that way better than I do the free throw game.
Yeah, Taven, what do you think about that strategy?
100%. I mean, like you said, Garland's a good free throw shooter, but this is the second time within a month that we've seen him struggle with the game on the line. You also saw it in Detroit,
right,
where he couldn't come up with it, in a clutch situation. So I think you let him roll it out, hit the 3, Abdulja or Denny. How do you say it? Abdulja?
Oh, no. Yeah. From Israel.
He was on fire, so I would have doubled him on the 3 line. But yeah, I would have let him shoot that. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, I did not get that. Nate, what about you?
So I'm going to kind of do the namesake of the show right now, because that basketball strategy gets me going nuCLEar every single time, because it's boring. It's so boring. Basketball is a fast-paced, up-tempo, high-octane game, and you'll love to see it played that way. The fouling up 3, even though, while I will agree, I think it is very, very smart strategy, I think it's the most boring thing that basketball has right now. And I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon, because the reality in today's world of basketball, a 3-pointer is a better shot than a mid-range 2. Statistically speaking, it is just a higher percentage shot. It is an analytically better shot. And so the coaches are going to look at the analytics, because a lot of coaches are big in that, and they're going to foul up 3. But it's boring. I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch 5 seconds turn into 5 minutes. I'm not here for that. My goldfish attention span can't handle it.
Well, I appreciate that analysis and your goldfish attention span. I think you just cursed on this show because you said the A word, analytics. We don't like that. We don't like analytics. That's a swear word.
I'm a numbers guy. I love my numbers.
Well, you know what numbers we're not going to be seeing on the field for the Browns? 95
or 2-4. You won't see 2-4 either.
It is not looking good, guys. It does not look looking good. I'm going to switch us over to the clowns here real quick because we had the draft combine, and so we had a lot of takeaways from that. Not one of the big pieces of news was Andrew Berry saying, "Yeah, well, we're going to let Nick Chubb kind of test free agency," and then Mary Kay goes out and writes today that, well, he's probably not going to come back, and people are losing their ever-loving mind over this. I mean, Nate, how big is losing, or how upset are you as a fan to possibly see the Browns allow Nick Chubb to walk out the door?
For Nick Chubb, I mean, devastated. Absolutely devastated. I love the guy, and from a front office standpoint, maybe not necessarily punishing might not be the right word, but not rewarding a guy for his loyalty to the city, and even throughout all the injuries, and especially the injury this past year when he could have left and he could have taken the easier way out. He chose to go through rehab. He chose to stay with the organization, and even though he didn't look that great, he still played for this team. I think you have to reward that with maybe not as much money as Nick Chubb would have want, but have the hard conversation with Nick Chubb and say, hey, we really like you in the city. We think you're a valuable piece here. Unfortunately, we have to sort of downgrade your pay a little bit just because we're unsure of what's going on there. And I literally have no words. I'm devastated that the 2-4 will not be playing in Cleveland anymore. I'm just
don't worry.
Cameras. I'm done.
Oh my god. No. All right. Mike, what about you? What do you think about the prospect of Chubb not playing in a Browns uniform again?
So I don't get it. I just don't get it. It shows how tone deaf this front office is. They have lost so much trust with the fan base and with the community with this Deshaun Watson disaster. How much money they're paying him with how much money they'd have to pay Nick Chubb just to have him on the team, even if he is your running back number 2. I mean, that's peanuts. That's peanuts. And how much goodwill they would get from the fan base, it's worth it for that, even if he's not going to be the player he used to be. Exactly. I don't get what this team's doing. I don't understand it at all.
Yeah, well, you're chubbed up over there, Nate. Taven, what about you?
Whoa, pause.
Yeah. I know you're more of a Taven. I know you follow the Giants a little bit more, than the Browns. Yeah. But I mean, you follow the Browns enough. I mean, what are your thoughts about the possibility of Nick Chubb having played his last, snap or down in Cleveland?
Well, there's two sides of it for me. From a front office standpoint, obviously, it might be the right decision because the dude's not what he used to be. Still owe him a lot of money. So from a financial standpoint,
they don't owe him any money. They don't owe him any money.
Nope, not a penny.
I get the move. I understand the move. But like Mike said, fan base, you can't do it. Everything you went through with Deshaun, and then not even speaking about the tickets they want to try to sell for this new stadium. That's not going to happen with Chubb not on the team. And obviously Miles. So I think if you trade Miles, if I'm the Browns, I just blow it all up and restart because that's kind of where you have to head now.
Okay. All right.
Again.
Whoa. I'm a little dizzy here.
If you trade Miles and Chubb, what really else do you have left besides Judy?
Denzel, baby. Yeah.
Oh, all right. I'll be back. I got to grab the other jersey.
Okay. While he's doing that, let me throw this out. So first of all, the thought that Chubb might not be back, I will say this. We say here, I think Nate, or maybe one of Taven, you might have said it. He's not exactly what he was, but how do we know that? He came back in that terrible offense last year. How do we know that when they go back to a more Stefanski zone scheme offense, he won't look better? That's one thing to think about. Is he, in fact, did he look worse than he actually is last year? My other question is this from a fan base. Now, Taven and Nate, I know you're too young for this, but you have to know the stories here. And so, Mike, I'm going to go to you first on this. How much of a gut punch, more or less, would it be for Nick Chubb to walk out the door versus when Bernie got released?
Well, I don't. So we're talking about different generations here.
Right, I understand.
That's what's hard. But so here's the similarities. The team was successful under both.
Right.
Okay. They were more successful under Bernie.
Right.
You know, they had a 3-year winning,
Yeah.
three-year streak of good wins. And maybe the difference is, well, no, you had really bad owners for both of those eras. The Art Modell and the Haslam both are horrible. And they both make, both of these are decisions that really anger the fan base. I mean, we still talk about Bernie Kosar, leaving and having to go to Dallas to win that Super Bowl as a backup quarterback. Right. So which is worse? I think I'm just gonna have to call it a tie. Like I'm riding the fence, like Nate said, you can't do that. But like it's up there. It's on the same level as Bernie leaving or us getting rid of Bernie.
Yeah, it's a little bit, it's apples and oranges, but I thought about it this afternoon and I'm like, look, all the fans that are pissed off right now at the organization, how pissed were they with what happened to Bernie, which is almost worse, which I think is worse. Yet the next year, the team brings in Vinny, colorblind Testaverde, and they go to the playoffs, like the best defense, like a historically good defense with Belichick. They lose it. They win the wild card against the Patriots on New Year's Day and lose in Pittsburgh the next week. But my point being, for everybody that was upset about that, they bounced back from it. So I mean, now we're going to switch generations. So Nate, I mean, albeit you weren't around for the Bernie, I'm sure you've heard the stories and the discussions, but don't you think that winning cures all?
So I am not necessarily riding the fence. I do know about the Bernie Kosar situation. I don't know if he was injured like Nick Chubb was. That piece of it I don't know, and I don't believe he was.
No,
so
although Bill Belichick said he has diminishing physical skills. Diminishing.
Okay,
what he had was he didn't put up with Bill's BS, and he essentially drew up a play in the dirt, threw a bomb for a touchdown, and gave the number 1 to Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know that story. So based on that fact, I mean, as much as my sweet boy Nick Chubb is going to be gone, Bernie is definitely the bigger hit to me because we don't know what number 24 is going to do yet. So we have the effect of we've already seen the result of what happened when Bernie Kosar got released. He won a Super Bowl, which you risk everything for a Super Bowl. You risk everything for an NBA title. You risk everything for a World Series. It's the biggest thing in sports. And Super Bowl is the biggest one out of all 3 that I've said and any other ones that you could conjure up. It is the biggest game. And having that on your resume, albeit as a backup quarterback,
right.
Again, we don't know where Chubb is going to go. We don't know if Chubb is ever going to be the same player again, because the thing that I've told everyone about the Nick Chubb injury is you can strengthen your bones, you can strengthen your muscles, and you can strengthen pretty much every other part of your body except for your tendons. They are what they are, and you can't really provide additional strength to your tendons and ligaments and things like that. After your first injury that happens with an ACL or Tommy John, guys come back and they feel invincible. They feel like nothing can hurt them. And then the second one happens and it's an you-know-what moment. It's oh crap. And Nick Chubb right now, I think last year had that oh crap kind of moment. Now guys can come back from that. We'll see if Nick Chubb does. I'm hoping he does. I really hope he does. Remains to be seen. Kosar is the biggest hit right now.
All right, Taven, what about you, my man?
Obviously wasn't around for the Kosar thing, but it's kind of same reasons that Nate said. I'm going to go Bernie strictly because what he did. Obviously he was more successful than Chubb really was. I mean, with the Browns arguably going a little further in the playoffs, but I'm gonna go with Bernie. Yeah, you can make the case for Chubb because after after that stint, they were bad for a very, very long time, and then that was when the team really turned around and made the playoffs for the first time, and however long it was with Chubb. But I'm gonna go with Bernie, just kind of the reasons what Nate said.
Right. So okay, so that's kind of where I was going, and I was glad to get everybody's opinion on that because everybody is real upset right now, and it's an emotional thing. And we don't. And first of all, let's put this out there: we don't know what's going to happen. We are only hypothesizing and guessing that somehow he is going to be signed by another team. They may simply want to send him out into the free agent market, find out what the offer is, and then in theory, the Browns could say, all right, come talk. We want to talk to you. We're going to take care of you. We're going to match that. As opposed to saying, I'm going to give you $500 million. And the other guy was like, shoot, I was going to give him like $1 million. And then you've completely overpaid for it. So I think that it's yet to be determined. But I wanted to ask that because it hit me this afternoon as the discussions were going on. What you got, Nate?
So, and if I may, just to piggyback off of that, again, we don't know what went on behind the scenes. We have no idea if Nick Chubb got that hard conversation with the Browns organization and they said, hey, we'd like to pay you this, but unfortunately, we have to pay you this. It's just a smarter business decision. And Chubb could have easily just said, no, I'll see where the market lies with me.
Although, now, are you guys comic book people? They were breaking down today, like on his Instagram story, he had posted a thing with like Batman, like maybe he'd gotten like slapped in the face or something like that. Does anybody follow that? Like the comics? I don't. And they were talking about it today on ESPN Cleveland. And if that's the case, that sounds like he might have gotten a bit disrespectful. Good point here. Just first of all, Cavs only down by 1 at the end of the first half, which is good. I'm glad to see that.
And another update, Kent State's down by 1 with like 14 seconds to go as well.
Oh, no.
Against Western Michigan. We'll see. They had a 4-point lead, and they blew it again in the last minute.
And they lost to Western Michigan at home, too, because Western Michigan couldn't miss.
Yes, that was yes, I recall that. And then
and Kent State can't shoot threes either, so.
Okay, but they might as well move Concussion Ward as well if we I like that nickname there. So which means Mike from
Hey, don't disrespect my other boy, Denzel Ward, okay? We got the jersey for a reason.
I don't know how many concussions he's had.
A
lot.
Yeah, and to answer what you just threw up on the screen there, Mike, we don't know about the JOK situation either. I mean, so many dominoes in this team. From what I've read and heard about JOK, it doesn't sound promising at all.
No, it certainly doesn't. It certainly doesn't. I think that there's going to be a lot of stuff to discuss. This draft is going to it's very important. I still wholeheartedly believe that they need to take a QB at 2. Either I really would prefer either Sanders or Ward, whichever will be the fastest way to get us back into contention is to get some consistent quarterback play. And I think either of them could provide. They have different traits, different strengths and weaknesses, but I think that either one would be suitable. So with that, I want to give it, Nate, I know you went a little bit nuclear already, but I wanted to give you an opportunity. Do you have anything else this week that has you going nuclear?
I mean, not necessarily nuclear in a bad way, but I just got a notification across my phone. We've seen a lot of wild things in college baseball already. George Mason today, 23 runs in an inning. And get this, they did it without a home run or a triple.
Oh, I love it. Back to the basics, the small ball.
That is beautiful. All right. That's good. That's good. Taven?
So college baseball overall just kind of has me going happily nuclear.
All right. I like it. Taven, anything got you going nuclear here this evening?
Chase the ladder. Kind of hard not to. Guy you buy so much into over the past, 2 years. And finally, this is a year. All right. He might be getting back together. And then, I'm sitting in finance class, and I get hit with, oh, he's out for 8 to 12 more weeks. So that's always fun.
Oh my goodness. Oh boy. Yeah, that definitely has me, would have me going nuclear. Mike,
All right. Well,
Kent State have you going nuclear?
Well, they just hit 2 free throws with 4 seconds to go, so they're up by 1 now. But Western Michigan gets to take the last shot. So we'll see how this ends. But what has me going nuclear, and I'll just keep it short, is why does Ty Jerome get fined for speaking the truth? I mean, everybody saw it. Like, let him have this free speech and say the refs suck because they did. Why do you have to fine him? Do the refs get fined for calling a bad game? I mean, come on.
Yeah, that absolute, man. Boom. That's no, as my friends like to shoot the GIF over, whatever. No lies detected there. Just no lies detected. Oh, wait, what's this? Ohio State sucks at college baseball, though.
Dude, I know. That team has no pitching. They have all the offensive talent in the world, and I think they've allowed double-digit runs in 6 out of their 8 games or something like that. Their pitching is terrible. It's awful. It's so bad.
That's why you need to follow Kent State baseball. Let's go, Golden Flashes. Let's go. All right, Mike. Well, I've had a lot of things that have had me going nuclear, and it all is around officiating and the lack of consistency. We see it in the pros. We see it in all sports. We see it at the collegiate level. And to kind of exemplify this, not only about the Cavs game on Sunday, but I watched on Saturday afternoon in the college basketball Division III, Randolph-Macon, the number 1 seed, is playing Guilford College. And the officiating, all of a sudden, throughout the year, they'd call all these things. They'd call the fouls and stuff. That day, they wouldn't call squat. It turned into like a knockdown, drag-out fight. And they're all over. I'm like, are you kidding me, folks? Are you kidding me? Gosh, listen, you have to be consistent. The rules should not change in the in the postseason or on a given day. It should be the same thing. The rules are the rules, and you got to stick to them. And I can't stand the officials and their terribleness and the fact that we constantly have to be putting up with it. And that is what has me going nuclear. Mike, do you have a result? Because I have it in front of me.
Yes, I just saw. So Kent State ends up winning by 1 as Western Michigan missed their buzzer beater.
Very nice. We needed to
be right back again. I gotta get the chain.
All right. So he's got snow going on there. So, Taven, so what's your next coverage? Where are you headed next? Oh, I love it. Yeah.
For what? High school?
Yeah. Where are you going to be next? Where does Believe Land Media have you heading next?
Headed to the field house tomorrow to watch Canton Central Catholic Sweet 16 game. So that should be pretty interesting. And then Thursday, might be headed up to Akron, the Jar, to watch.
I'm sorry.
Watch Perry.
I'm sorry. No, I love what they did with the scoreboard at the field house. They did not have that there 20 years ago.
Yeah, sweet.
But I did get to call some games there, so that was good. Nate, what do you have going on? Tell us about what you just said that the basketball just finished up.
Yep, basketball just finished up. Both of our men's and women's teams here at the college lost in the first round of the tournament. Men lost a heartbreaker. Women got out physicality. Out rebounded. It was bad. But we're getting ready for baseball softball season here at the college. And much like Ohio State here at the college, our pitching on the baseball side is not good, but the offense is. Otherwise, on Thursday, bright and early at 2:30 in the morning, I'm going to New York City.
Wow. What are you going to go to New York City for?
I am up for a couple of international broadcasting awards. Well, collegiate broadcasting awards for a couple calls. So
awesome. Wow. Congratulations.
Congratulations. How did you get nominated for that? I would have loved it. Tell us about that here.
Just submit stuff and hope your name gets called, and mine did. So we'll see where I place.
Well, I definitely want to hear all about that. I want to know about it. This is fantastic. That is.
Oh, it'll be all over Twitter.
Hey, we will be watching it there. We'll be watching it there. So, and when will we see prospects of the land again? When will you guys be back on? When is your next episode?
Taven, I think we're talking next Monday, right?
Yeah. Yep. So, spring training, I think we're trying to go every other Monday. And then during the season, once all the minor league stuff kicks off, Guardians, we should be on, every Monday. Still debating on a time, but we should be every single Monday during the season.
Probably around 6, 7, 8 at latest.
Yeah, one of those times with the
when we feel like it.
Whatever it says, o'clock afterwards, something o'clock. Oh, well, no, I guess can't 8:30 o'clock. Yeah, never mind. My brilliant comedy kind of failed me there. Mike, what do you got going on? You got some games? Got some football, basketball, baseball? What's going on with the kids?
This is the first weekend we have 0 sports, 0 kids sports. So
yes.
Not that I'm sad that they lost their games last weekend, but we only get like a 1 week break and then we're back at it next week. So I'm going to try to enjoy it. This
well, you got to enjoy the,
I enjoy watching them play. I still enjoy it. I will enjoy the short freedom break that I get.
No, that is excellent. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. Tell all your friends. If they want to catch this podcast later, if they want to, they can listen to it on all of their favorite platforms, such as Spotify, Apple, etc. You can find this podcast on there. Again, Going nuCLEar is part of the Fanatical Elves Network, a subsidiary of Fans First Sports Network. So thank you again, guys, for tuning in. And so for our guests, Nate and Taven, and my co-host, Mike, we will see you next time on Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land.